call this meeting to order. Now roll call. Council at Large Boots.
Here.
At Large Spear.
Here.
Council Ward number 1 Leeper.
Here.
Ward number 2 Anderson.
Here.
And Ward number 3 McNeil.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
To the agenda. Alright. So we do need to make a correction on item L, the first one, the second one, because the first one's the claims. The second one should read 47,000 instead of 42,000. I believe in the packet it actually says 47,000. So just need to change that on the agenda. So with that change, is there a motion to approve this agenda?
So moved.
Boots with first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots.
Yes.
Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes. All right. So with that approval, now we move to the unscheduled communications. If there's anybody who wants to address please make your way to the podium and give your name and your address for the record.
My name is Betty Emmerich, and I live at 409 East Street, and I'm not here to ask you for any money. That's next time. I would like to help solve a problem that I see as being rather major. I know that a number of organizations that I belong to, when we have fundraising involved, we use the Tipton School District for mailing. I would like to suggest that you use people who live in this Tipton School District be allowed to vote on whatever things come up before the council. I think that would be a solution that you could use. We use it at the pool. People pay less if they're in the Tipton School District. That must have been approved by some of you, plus the school district. And it would be a lot easier than trying to extend the city limits out to all of these neighborhoods. That would be my second suggestion to solve some of these problems. Most of the business people who don't live in town, but they are paying taxes in town, they are contributing to the school district, they're contributing in many, many ways. And I'll quit right there.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Larry Hodgson, 210 East 6th Street. And I passed out these Cedar County Bicycle Coalition flyers. There should be one on every table for you to take a look at. Council, and I believe, all received a copy of that. Recently, we started the Cedar County Bicycle Coalition, and the purpose of which was to advocate for a bicycle culture in Cedar County. And of course, we're located in Tipton, so we've started a lot of activities in Tipton. We want to support a lot of things we are supporting at this current time are Safe Streets initiatives. We're working right now on trying to find a path for a trail around Tipton to provide walking and bicycling, for safe walking and bicycling for people and for our children. So we have a lot of good things going on, where this flyer will tell you about some of those. Our Facebook address is on the bottom of it, and so we'd like to have you get on our Facebook page and learn more about it, and consider supporting us as we move along. One of the things we want to do is we want to work in conjunction with the city, because I know the city, obviously we're not going to be asking the city for a lot of money, because I personally, and I think most of us understand, the city has got their back against the wall right now with problems that they're trying to deal with, large amount of debt, streets that are falling behind on repairs, sewer problems, and we're finding out more and more, almost every week, or every 2 weeks, more electrical problems. So the city does not have a lot of money to spend at this time. So the bicycle group is going to be working with the city and with other groups to try to solicit some grants to help us to produce trails, to build trails around Tipton. And it's one of the things that's very popular, because we've already collected 200 signatures on petitions for people that are highly supportive of bike trail and walking trail around Tipton. One thing that's on the agenda tonight that is going to come up later on is the Great Places designation for Cedar County and Tipton to be involved in. And I would like to highly encourage the City Council to get involved in that, take part in that, because that would provide an opportunity for a fairly large grant, which could be used for trails or other things within Tipton to promote the city of Tipton. And so, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Is there anybody else for the unscheduled portion? Seeing that there is none, we'll close that portion of the meeting and move on to the consent agenda, which these can be enacted with one motion, and they are the city council minutes from July 17th, library board minutes from June 26th, the June library director's report, library 2016 to 2017 annual report, and a liquor license renewal from Me Tierra. Do any of these need to be pulled out? Is there a motion to approve these? Lieber with the first, and McNeil with the second.
McNeil?
Yes.
Boots?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
All right, so those are all passed with that one motion, and now we'll move to letter G, which is the discussion items. And the first one that we got is the meeting between the council and mayor and representatives from the Development Commission, Chamber, and TEDCO. So I will open it up to whoever wants to start speaking, whether it's anybody from the commission, TEDCO, or the chamber.
Good evening. I'm Tamara Roberts. I live here in town, and I'm currently the president of the Chamber of Commerce. I represent, and I want to say off the top of my head, approximately 86 businesses here in town. That's what our chamber membership is. I'm also the secretary on the Tipton Economic Development Corporation, so TEDCO, and I'm also serving on the Development Commission. So I'm the only person, the only business owner here in town that's on all three entities. It's kind of been nice because it's finally kind of given us a perspective. Independently acting before, we were all each doing our own thing and not getting much feedback from what the other entities were doing. And since I've been on, I think I've been pretty quick to point out what each entity is doing at each meeting, and it's been really helpful in helping us work together on things. So I guess that brings about my first point, is I really think that we need to work together on unity between our entities in town and the city council. And I think one of the best ways to do that is to go forward with the Development Commission. And I'm going to ask you to make some changes with the ordinance today. However, I think that we need to keep in mind the goal is improving Tipton, increasing its tax base, making it more enjoyable for citizens to live here, creating progress. I know several of you, when you campaigned to become mayor or city council members, you mentioned the things of progress that you wanted to see. And I think that our members for each of these entities support those progressive ideas, And we would like to work forward with you to make that happen, because we know that it can't just be one person to get it done, and it can't even be a handful of people. So far this year, I was just looking back, I know I have over 150 hours of volunteer time between the 3 organizations. And that doesn't even include putting together, not-for-profits here in town that I do pro bono, things of that nature. I feel like I'm doing a lot for the community, and I know I don't even make a dent in what needs done. And so I know together we need to work together to get more of these things done, and it can't be on one person's shoulders. I just want to give you a little bit of background on how this whole, issue came about. So when we first were given notice that there was some language in the ordinance that would maybe preclude people that lived out of town from serving on the Development Commission, that it came very quick and stuff with us presenting to this council the fact that we wanted to move Linda's office downtown, and it was not favorably received by the council. So when that came, it felt like retaliation from the city when we were trying to push forward progress. We were trying to make Linda's office better to show the world when they come visit us. We have this nice office, we're a developing community, we're not stuck in the past. Besides all the other issues that have to do with Linda's office, and we need to get to that. I think the more important thing tonight, if you're going to prioritize things, I'd rather us talk about the unity and the Development Commission because it's a priority. If you need more time, although I really wish it wouldn't take more because the office issue's been on our plate for over a year now. So I want you to get going on that. If you need more time, fine, but we ask you to keep, please, getting on that issue. But I would really like to just focus then on the Development Commission. I've put together, and I've mailed, and you should have it, a proposed ordinance. Now, the old ordinance, the language, well, it's a little bit confusing. It specifically does not put a residency requirement in it. However, what raises a little bit of questions by the council and the mayor is that it says if one of these representatives shall move, or were to move from town permanently, then the mayor shall appoint somebody else. Well, that kind of makes me think maybe there is a little bit of residency requirement, but we're not sure. But what we do know is that's not how it's operated for years and years. There are several people in this room that live out of town that have served on the Development Commission. Front page of the paper, Dr. Niles did. Shelby Wiskus has served on it. There are other people in our community that live out of town that own businesses, that do a lot for our community, who would have been precluded from serving. The other thing is that I think this is a problem that could be easily resolved. So basically, the chamber is represented, we're 1/3 of this commission. And we would like for chamber to select its representative according to its bylaws. Let us pick our representatives. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to have someone else making the choices of who's going to represent us on that commission. Because it really kind of gives, if it's just the mayor, I think it gives the mayor the upper hand in choosing what the course and what the goals are going to be of that commission. Not that I don't even know if we have any contrary ideas than what you have, Mr. Carney, but what I can tell you is we feel like we're paying our bills, including a share of Linda's office, and we've been paying for the internet and the phone for Linda's office, and we've been putting in hundreds and hundreds of man hours, especially this past year. We've been putting in a lot of time. In fact, we were meeting last night until 8 o'clock. What I would really like to see is for us then at least to be able to choose our voice. Now, if chamber chooses its own according to its bylaws, currently its bylaws would allow somebody who's not a resident of Tipton to serve on the Development Commission. But we do have other requirements, like you must be a business owner or conduct business in this town. I can tell you all the people that serve currently on the chamber board are entrepreneurs, they're business people, or they're from a bank here in town. As for the TEDCO, we're asking that it be able to select its members according to its bylaws. So chamber right now, it would be the president and vice president. That's what our rules say. It's going to change because every time a president changes on a chamber, that's when our representative's going to change. Helps create a little bit of turnover, get new ideas in so we're not stagnant. TEDCO, and I'll let Jim maybe tell us what its rules are. I think we just do a volunteer system and a vote. It would like to also select its 2 representatives according to its bylaws. Now, if we change our bylaws, we could change them and say you have to be from town, then that would be what we would abide by. If we change our bylaws saying you have to own a business here in town, or a building, or pay some sort of property tax, there's lots of ways to determine maybe what residency is other than putting our heads down at night on a pillow here in town. In fact, you may know I moved to a rental property recently, and I'm not paying real estate taxes in this town anymore, but somehow I'm qualified under the current ordinance, and I don't feel like whether I sleep at that property or the property I'm at now makes me more or less qualified. And if I were to live outside of town but have my business here, I don't feel like that makes me less qualified to serve. I would propose that the mayor also be able to select its 2 representatives from the council, and currently that's what they have, Dean and Leanne serve. And then he has appointed, well, a previous mayor has appointed the at-large, which would be Todd Miller, the pharmacist here in town. And so really when it comes down to it, the city already has 3 vote voices in town, 3 people who are residents here in town, because by default the council members have to be residents. I think this would help make each entity feel like they have a stake in the game, that they have a say. I know that in the paper I read there might be concerns about insurance issues, and I think those are probably not as imminent as one might believe. However, even if we were to treat it more as a process, like the United States Supreme Court's supposed to work, right? The president's supposed to select a nominee, and then it's supposed to be confirmed by Congress. And maybe that would be a better situation. So you'd still have veto power if you thought it was somebody who would be completely inept. But I'm guessing every one of us that serve on the chamber board, I'm pretty sure that you would think that they're responsible folks, that they would do a good job in the position. Also, if there were any sort of absences during the middle of the appointment, we would use the same process. However they got there in the first place, according to Chamber's bylaws, TEDCO's bylaws, or appointed by the mayor, then that's why we'd go for the replacement process. I think we're pretty flexible. If you have other ideas, I'd be glad to revise my proposed ordinance. But I really feel like the city needs to help us increase the tax base, move forward with progress. We're doing our best. In fact, I feel like we've been the most active in the last year and a half or so than we've ever been. And I'd hate to have any sort of hard feelings slow us down. Lastly, with the location for Linda's office, I would really like for us to relocate her. And to be quite honest, I just would love for it to be in the downtown area. I wouldn't care as much as a specific location, as long as it were downtown and visible. I don't know if you know the history on it, but it's my understanding, and everything's by word of mouth, they used to have the office over in the Windstream building, that little brick building over behind the pharmacy off of Main Street. And it's my understanding rent was $0 a month. Pretty good deal. But there was a group of folks that were serving on the commission at that time. I believe Jerry O'Rourke was one of them. I think Daisy was around when that was one of them. Some people that we really respect in the community, and they thought it is more important for us to have it downtown that we be willing to pay rent and give up a rent-free space. And I feel like I've heard, and I don't know for sure, but I know when we did one of the studies recently with Northern Iowa, that they suggested it be downtown. They recommended that location, and I'll let maybe Daisy speak on that if she's willing, but that was part of the push to get it downtown, is we had professionals from outside the community come tell us, you need to be visible, you need to be downtown. I don't think it's going to take up so much commercial space that we're gonna lose out on TIF funds. I feel like that we don't have anybody knocking down doors to try to get a retail spot in our downtown. We have a ways to go. If we get to that point, I'll gladly suggest we relocate, but for now, I would love to see Linda's office downtown, visible to the businesses, helping new businesses come into town, working forward to getting some home-based businesses into downtown spots would be great. And I think having her there closer to help those people along, tell them what's available would be wonderful. And I think that's a good reason to not have it somewhere off of Main Street. Do you have any questions? I'm sure there's lots of other people that might want to talk.
Thank you.
Any thoughts from up here yet?
I'd like to hear Jim talk.
I don't have a lot to add. Chairman covered a lot of it. But before we came to the meeting tonight, I just looked up economic development on the Tipton website. And the first sentence says, the 7-member Tipton Development Commission was established to facilitate a partnership between the Tipton Chamber of Commerce, Tipton Economic Development Corporation, and the City of Tipton. The commission is comprised of 2 delegates from each entity and 1 at-large member. Basically, the first economic development director came on board in August of 2006 to carry out the priorities and initiatives of the Tipton Development Commission, as well as facilitate further community-minded programs and further progress Tipton as a thriving business community with a high quality of life. And basically says the economic development is responsible for promotion of Tipton as a great place to live and business, working towards downtown revitalization and researching grants and other funding sources to aid in Tipton's community development efforts. I want to emphasize, we are a partnership. We're all in this together. And unfortunately, I think some things have happened in the last 6 months where we feel like we're being pushed out of the partnership. Another thing I think you guys need to realize is volunteers for organizations like ours don't grow on trees. It's very difficult to find a volunteer. And I think you're really limiting the pool of people that want to volunteer and help our community out by limiting it to just the city limits. There's a lot of people that live on acreages outside of town, like Betty Emmerich said, they pay school property, go to our schools, they pay property taxes, they own businesses in town. They have a vested interest too to seeing our community grow, and I think we're eliminating them by not changing the ordinance. So I hope we can reconsider the ordinance and hopefully make it a little more liberal in our interpretation to allow not just city people in the city limits, but I like Betty's analysis within the school district. Why not let them? So that's all I have to say.
I don't want to say the counter, but the kind of counter, I also have a couple names that have expressed interest in volunteering on the development commissioner, but they're neither part of the chamber or TEDCO or city council. So they're not being allowed to be found as volunteers either. And one thing that I've mentioned to this council numerous times is changing it to have 1 delegate from the chamber and 1 from TEDCO and have 3 at large. Because it'd be the same thing as opening up the pool of potential volunteers as well.
Who are those volunteers? I need volunteers on my TEDCO board.
We haven't had a vice president on TEDCO since I've been on it.
We've been going around the community trying to find people. It would be nice to, if you know these, I would like to get together with you and visit with them. Maybe they don't want to serve on TEDCO, I understand that. There's opportunity out there.
So, this is kind of my evidence of that.
I think one thing to take into consideration, and I don't know who your volunteers are, and they may be wonderful. I think one thing that you have to keep in mind is why they set it up with the membership of each of those entities. So the people that serve on Chamber and TEDCO generally own businesses. They're generally people who understand complicated issues of finance and building a business. They know what the obstacles are. They know the ones that they know issues with maybe thinking outside the box, like instead of trying to draw a random person in to build an industry, we think about, well, I currently serve in this industry. It'd be nice to have my supplier come also be in the industry. It's things like that. I think at-large citizens, well, I think we could add them. I don't think I would decrease them, decrease the business owners on the board. I feel like we have a lot more at stake than maybe a regular resident, because a resident who's not a business owner, perhaps, would, they live here, they like to have some services here, they like to see businesses open. But for me, if business is not going well in town, if people are closing their businesses and there's no development, my business is hurting, I'm financially, personally suffering, on top of losing the services of the resident. I feel like I have more at stake. And I think that's what makes us better suited, perhaps, to serve. However, I wouldn't be against having more citizens that aren't business owners serve.
What about a citizen that's retired and has been a business owner?
Yeah, so you can still be a chamber member according to our chamber membership. If you're retired and have a business, you'd be welcome to serve. In fact, we're looking for new members.
Yeah, to be able to serve on the TEDCO. Brian, you're saying one from the TEDCO, one from the chamber, and two from the city council?
Mhm.
Why does city council get two, and TEDCO and chamber only get one?
Well, we
I think
put
we
all the
represent
money
more
forward.
people than you do.
But I thought it was supposed to be a third partnership here.
I go back to, I've given it a lot of thought why that ordinance was written that way. And I had to assume that there was a reason for that. And my reasoning came down to the money that pays for the director's salary comes from the local option sales tax. That's voted on by the people of Tipton, the same people who have voted this table. And by your proposal, Tamara, and I don't have a lot of argument with it, except that if we went with two TEDCO, two chamber, and they were all out of town, we as a council would be giving up the control of that last lost fund that the citizens voted in. And I think I'd be remiss in my duty to do that.
I think, though, that at each time that comes up for vote, it's the business owners that you're going to asking us, go tell the citizens that they should renew this because this is important. And the reason why it got passed in the first place is because the business owners were pushing for it because they wanted development. You had to convince us that this was a good thing, and in exchange, we decided, let's put this group together so that we're all represented and we all have a say in how it's spent. So I think that it was something that was sold to us, and that's what we wanted in exchange for convincing folks that this additional tax would be good. Does that make sense? Am I wrong?
But that's assuming that by you helping sell it, it sold it. I think it sold itself this time. I mean, I think people appreciated what it was doing for them.
Well, and I think TEDCO made quite an effort to get yard signs and such out. I think the chamber did. We paid for signs to be put out. I don't think that it was just, I mean, folks probably do like it, but originally we got into it, agreed to it, because we thought it was something that would help.
So maybe could you answer me what it would take to do what Betty's requesting? Can it be the city who goes out and says, we're going to change our voting, our Tipton voting district to the school district? Can we say that?
You could define residency for purposes of the Development Commission any way you'd like.
So then we could incorporate all the people in the school district to vote for city council for...
Oh, no, I wasn't saying
okay.
that part.
Oh, okay.
I don't think that you could legally do that.
I didn't think it would be, that would be quite an
Because they wouldn't be under the political subdivision of that. And one more thing to come back to Mr. Lever's question, we do have members that serve on TEDCO too that are retired. Mr. Tripp down on the end, and Mr. Perry, they're both retired business people here in town that serve on that board. We welcome people like that. They have a lot of insight. We have quite a spectrum of people serving on these boards.
The other thing some of the council members have discussed is if the ordinance were to be changed so that the chamber and TEDCO were to appoint their own membership, is that we'd be giving up the control that way as well. We get voted into office where the people then who would be trying to come up with plans and how to spend tax money would not be appointed by a public officer.
Brian, what control are you afraid you're losing? Everybody talks about control. I don't.
Tax money.
Yeah, but what if we?
Just, if I could, just for a sec, if I could mention 3 points of view that you could look at this. And sometimes in my job, you say things that people don't always want to hear, but as a new person coming in and kind of seeing this, I was trying to put it together a little bit. And I think some of when the ordinance, the draft ordinance was proposed, it was along the lines of this appointment or reappointment not being made. I think my take on it was the council was reacting to a draft ordinance that was saying, we don't like the way you decided this, and we want to decide this for you. And I think the reaction from the council was, why should we be motivated to do that? The second point I wanted to make was that of a commission member, and that has to do with the insurance coverage. If it's set up that TEDCO and the chamber can name people, I think it's in everybody's interest that they nominate and then let the city council confirm. Because the opinion we got from our insurance carrier is they don't know what they'll do if a situation comes up under errors and omissions. They might look at it as a case by case. So that isn't a slight about somebody's background being, did they have this business or that business. It's the thing that can come up not when somebody's application for money is approved, but when it's denied, when somebody makes an offhand comment at a meeting that gets back to a person, somebody makes a joke, somebody lets go of financial data that's supposed to be confidential. Those are all things that can happen. And if I was on the commission and I wondered whether or not I was being covered, it would change my behavior as a commissioner. So I would want to know from the get-go, am I covered with errors and omissions insurance? And I think that's taken care of, even if the two entities nominate, if the council approves. But the last one that I wanted to mention is sort of what was being said here. And before I got into this line of work, I was an elected person myself. I did that for 9 years. And to me, when you get elected, you make a deal with the public, with the voters, that you're going to take on the responsibilities of an elected person. And I don't think most voters would see it as part of the deal to give up those responsibilities to, unelected people. I just don't think they see that as part of the bargain they make with people when they get elected.
So I think, though, something to keep in mind is that when taxpayer funds are spent, it's before this council. We make recommendations when we select TIF money to be approved, when we have projects, when we're thinking about moving an office. It still comes back to you, the elected people. We're just the people doing all the footwork to bring it forward to you, trying to help make your job easier to make recommendations. I don't know of a time that the city council has told us, no, what you're recommending for money, besides this office change, but for like TIF grants, things like that, you haven't ever turned us down. So I don't think that we're in disagreement on anything. It's just this idea of the possibility there could be disagreement in the future, which we haven't seen for the couple decades that we've been formed. And so I really think that you still have it in your back pocket. Every taxpayer dollar, besides odd and ends probably in Linda's budget, is already being approved by you.
That's what I was referring to, Brian. I mean, what have we done anything so far that I mean, I guess that's where I'm coming from. We talk about control, but like she said, everything we do, you approve.
But I guess the control, I was kind of, along with the taxes, would be what Brian had mentioned.
Yeah, well, I did.
with the-
Yeah, okay.
With the unspoken deal that he talked about with the electorate.
But I don't think, but we're just there to give you direction, to give you ideas of what we think would make the town better. And there is nothing preventing citizens from giving you ideas to work for, or giving those ideas to us for us to work for. And we'll do the groundwork to get the things going. But I don't think that the citizens have been cut out of the deal.
Our meetings are all open, and no one has ever shown up. And the whole time I've been in chamber and the commission, nobody's ever shown up, maybe one to chamber, to put their input in. So you can say they want to be there, but they're all open,
But
and nobody comes.
on your last agenda, I had to adapt it because it didn't name a time or a location. That's the kind of thing that if people want to make an issue, they can point to an open meetings issue. And, I mean, I corrected, I added those things, but
For the Development Commission, I just want to clarify.
Yeah, that was my first time ever making an agenda, my apology.
well, that's all right.
That's why
But that's the kind of thing that can happen. I've heard of situations where just an offhand comment gets back to somebody, and they carry it on to a legal situation. Well, in that legal situation, it isn't the city attorney that would be defending us. It would be the insurance company appointing an attorney. And then they would have to decide, would they cover all the commission or just the ones that the council appointed? That's why I think if TEDCO and the chamber have a role in selecting commission members, they should be confirmed by the council just to cover that angle.
And I don't think any of us dispute a confirmation by the commission. I think we're very open to that idea. And I think if it helps with insurance coverage, I think we're probably even more happy to do that. But I think that it seems silly to think that a normal person that is not a business owner gets appointed by the mayor is somehow not going to create these agenda time issues and all these other issues that somebody sitting in our seat, they're just as likely to make those. So the question is just whether they're covered or not covered because we weren't confirmed. Then I think we would certainly support a confirmation process.
Define normal.
I didn't mean it like that. I'm not. I wouldn't qualify.
I'm not either, and I'm glad I'm not. But I listen to the people that are coming to me and telling me what their thoughts are about different things. And those are the people that elected me, and those are the people I represent. And the majority of those people, if they come up with this, with the same thing they're asking me, then that's my responsibility to do what they want.
Well, I would like for you to hear from some of the businesses here. There's 86 chamber members. I don't know how many TEDCO members, but maybe if some of the business owners would like to speak up and tell your elected representatives what your thoughts are, I think that would be quite helpful because I don't think we've done an adequate job reaching out to you.
Some have, some haven't. But
What I would like from you guys, and I've told both Brian's this, and I think it was passed along at one point, in my shop, I decided to bring my business to your town. Now, granted, I've lived here forever, but I can't tell you how many people were like, you should bring this to West Branch. This would do great in a big city. But I chose Tipton because I love Tipton. I live here and it's been my life. I've had 3 of my council members in there. I was discussing this with our mayor, and I had 2 business owners that same day, relatively new. One didn't know any of the council members. One knew, but did not have them in their business. And while I was discussing this with him, I had a resident who's lived in Tipton their whole life. Their family is from Tipton. Had no idea who our council members were. I don't need you to come into my shop and buy anything. I would just like for you to come into my shop and say, hey, Thank you for bringing your business to our town to help us out. That's what we try to do as a chamber. That's why when somebody comes to town, whether you're a chamber member or not, we go and we have a ribbon cutting for you. That's why we're doing Business of the Month. We put your paper or your picture in the paper. We want to help you because your business helps our town. Whether you're helping our Chamber of Commerce or not, we are here to help you and help Tipton.
I think Alicia has a good point, and that's kind of always been a flavor in town. You can have a business here, but it doesn't mean that people support you. It's like the activities downtown that are planned. It's interesting to go and see how many of the council people, the chamber people, different organizations show up to them. Sometimes none, sometimes very few. And having been a business owner, you know, with the majority of owners in this town that live out of town, we really have nothing to say. We pay our taxes, we run our business, we take care of our building, but when it comes to decisions, we have nothing to say. And that's why I think, you know, it really needs to be rethunk about the volunteers and volunteer days, because they're not knocking on your door, and we've got a lot of them, good ones, that live out of town, and we cannot smack them in the face.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you. I just think there needs to be a change made, and I think the best change would be to retain the 2 members from TEDCO, the 2 members from the Chamber, the 2 members from this council, and the 1 at-large member. I think the Chamber and the TEDCO should be able to appoint members from their membership. It is possible that every member of TEDCO could be an out-of-town person, and with the ordinance as it currently reads, that you need to be a town person, a town resident, the TEDCO would not be able to have a member on the commission. And I think the thing that needs to be changed is the ordinance so that you could have those members from TEDCO and from the Chamber and have them approved by the council. I think that liability is not probably something that is insurmountable. I have served on bank boards, TEDCO, and school boards for a number of years. And I always had my own personal liability insurance. All those organizations are named, and I suspect that most business owners do the same thing. As a business owner, you have liability insurance, and you list those organizations. Your agent's asking you about those things, and they're covered. So people serving on boards do have coverage. I don't think that's going to keep anyone from serving on the board. And those are just my thoughts, and I appreciate your time and consideration.
Thank you.
I still haven't heard anything that keeps people from volunteering. Does that make sense? The way the ordinance reads to me, it doesn't stop people from volunteering. They can volunteer for commission or to be on TEDCO. They can volunteer to be a chamber. This whole discussion come up for the mayor not being able to appoint president of a commission, economic commission, that does not live in town. But it still doesn't stop the volunteerism. That's my thoughts.
You mean like what's deterring volunteers? Is that what you're saying?
So if the mayor appoints who he wants to be president of the commission, it still doesn't stop everybody from volunteering.
Right. And we'd welcome the volunteers.
Exactly.
Right.
So I don't know what needs to be changed and why.
What needs to be changed?
Yeah, why change the ordinance? Because all you're after
We don't have
is
volunteers.
volunteers.
We don't have volunteers lining up on the door. And I think Ken Kroc made a good point at the Lions meeting this week, and maybe Ken, you can maybe touch on what you talked about, troubles with volunteers.
Well, you know, what I was saying at the Lions meeting is we all actually feed off of one another, off our experiences and stuff. And the one nice thing about volunteers, you know, like in the Lions Club and so forth, we've all either been business owners, whether it's a farmer in our community or whether you do insurance or what you do. But we all kind of work together to bring more people to our community. I mean, in my job, that's what I do, try to bring more kids into the school district, try to bring more, and that's why we all have to try to work together. And I think that we're bickering over this, but you know, what Tamara's, I think, is getting at, Tim, is that when we have a volunteer that lives outside of the school district that has volunteered his time to be president of that organization, then I think it maybe should be considered that that person could also serve on the, you know, with the council to help that, because we don't, everywhere, we don't have people lining up to run into those officer positions. And that's just kind of the way it goes, but we have to try to feed off one another, I think. And we're paying for all this, paying for a lot of things that I think as a community and as the professionals we could be getting along a lot easier and not necessarily paying for everything because we have a lot of experience here. So,
I guess my other point on the volunteering, the ordinance, the way it's written, could, and I don't think it will because we have a lot of business owners that do live in Tipton, but it could put us in a position where the chamber is invested in this. We have expenses that we pay for this office to succeed, and we come to find our representative is a resident that lives in town that's never paid dues to our organization, that's never volunteered with our organization, doesn't go to our monthly meetings for our organization, but that person was selected by the mayor. And I think that's part of the trouble.
Yeah, I said, I didn't follow you.
I think technically the way the ordinance is written, you could choose anybody, not even a member of the chamber or TEDCO, to serve, to represent us.
I thought that it would be 2, 2, 2, and 1.
To represent us, but they don't have to be a member.
May I also say that a few years ago, the chamber started sending out volunteer forms in our memberships every year because we were so desperate and we were knocking on doors asking for help. We thought this would be a great way. Well, we just sent out, what, over 100 membership letters in June, end of June. We haven't received one volunteer form back.
All we got were chamber dues, and that was pretty normal.
And yeah, and that's totally normal.
And I know you've had other offices that have been difficult to fill, and I think that's what I was trying to get at. Ken Kroc was interested in serving on one of those offices, but found out since he's outside the city limits, he didn't qualify. And he would have been excellent on that, and I don't know who ended up replacing him, but that's a good example on how difficult it is.
So there's other committees in town that don't allow people from outside.
Right, and then
Yeah,
also.
the Board of Appeals does as well.
So, one more thing too on that taxpayer funds, the concern with that, because I think that is something that you have weighing on your mind. So you have employees that work for you, that live outside of town, and they come before you monthly or however often to ask you to approve their recommendation to spend funds in a certain way. Perhaps it's to buy a truck, perhaps it's to do something else. Now, they don't live in town, and the taxpayers aren't in here up in arms that something you approved that was recommended by a non-resident would get approved for money to be spent that way. And I see us as that same position. Here we are serving on this board, just like your employee, making a recommendation, and you make a decision to approve those funds or not. I really see that as a parallel.
I agree. If paid employees can have the rules bent sometimes, then what's with our volunteers that live out of town? I mean, it's kind of like a double standard.
But nobody says people can't volunteer if they live out of town.
No, we're saying for this position.
They can't serve on the development.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
but I could be,
Are we a little confused on the term volunteer? I mean, we're not talking about volunteering to help with the chamber's bake sale. We're talking about volunteering to be on the board.
I guess that's where we see different things, since I personally don't see any difference. Because if you are a paid dues paying member of chamber, then you're kind of already in a pool to be chosen to volunteer to be on this commission.
but not with your laws now.
Tim just brought up a very good position. Someone living outside of Tipton can't be on the Board of Adjustment. So now all of a sudden, are we changing the composition of all our boards? Or are we going to pick and choose which ones we're going to let up on them?
What's wrong with changing this?
You have an airport commission, but people serve from out of town, is that right?
It's a committee. A commission and a committee are different.
Still, the commission can make decisions so long as it doesn't have to by law be adopted by the city council, but all the things that we do.
They can spend the money though, right? I mean, the commission can spend.
No, the money being spent is being spent by the city council.
I thought they had the authority to warrant.
No.
Anything and everything we do gets approved by you guys.
I think it would be helpful for you to attend some of these meetings, to attend the development commission, to attend the chamber meetings. I know Pam does, Leanne serves on it, and Dean comes to the meetings. I know they were selected to, with their positions to do that, but I'd encourage all of you to come find out what we're doing. I think that you make it feel like we're working against each other, but I think we're all pushing for the same thing.
Just comment on what you just said there. So you're telling me that as long as I have a member of TEDCO, not on the board, just a member of TEDCO, that he's eligible to serve on the development commission if he lives in town, the way you are saying.
That's the way it's been explained to me.
So
by our
you want to put a
attorney.
member on there that is not familiar with economic development, TIF programs, all this stuff out of the industrial park to serve on the development commission, who probably will do something.
Well, I personally wouldn't, but I'm saying.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Why wouldn't you want a board member on there that's gone to the board meetings every month, that's up to date on all the current laws and everything? He's the one that you want serving on the commission because he can make the good decisions for the community. So that's what we're saying is these volunteers we're looking for volunteers that want to serve on the boards that eventually maybe want to serve on the development commission, but you're disqualifying them because they live out of town.
I'm sorry, it's not me disqualifying him. It's
No, I
the
mean, the ordinance is qualifying.
And
The ordinance is.
the advice from our attorney and our insurance.
No, I think the ordinance is vague, and I disagree with your attorney. However, it's never been enforced. And we're saying, why are you forcing it now, especially immediately after we ask you to do something that you don't want?
I would like to comment a little bit, if I may.
Go for it.
Here's my notes, I don't have it. But I think the real goal is where we're going ahead now. Not going to look back and who wrote the word city in the ordinance and all that stuff. Is where we want to go now. You've heard from everyone that finding volunteers is tough to do. Finding qualified volunteers is even tougher. But what concerns me is the way it's written now is to get on a commission, you need to have live in town. Okay, that excludes a lot of people. Excludes me. I feel like I'm from Tipton, but I kind of wonder sometimes. I went to school here. I raised my family here. I've been on a school board. I've been on a number of things. Rotary president. Put a lot of time in, so I think I'm somewhat qualified. I'm also a past vice president of a large corporation. But you're excluding people with the present language to perhaps even help further. And I just don't think there should be a limitation based on where you live to be on that commission. That's the only thing I'm concerned about. Not for me, not for whoever's been in the past, but looking forward, you need to have the ability to get the best people possible to help this whole community. We're all talking about Tipton. Nobody's talking about some other town. We're all talking about Tipton. So I'd like to see that language change from the city for people to be on that commission to be just from the various boards as written. but allow that to be somebody from out of town, okay? Secondly, if the concern is that if I would say something wrong in one of those meetings, and you would be afraid that maybe that would be a problem, if the solution is to have the whole council bless who is appointed to those commissions and committees, that's fine. That's fine. I think there's some simple solutions here to a problem we've talked about a whole lot. And to bring outsiders in to understand, I've learned a lot by being on TEDCO. And I brought some stuff myself to TEDCO. But to bring people completely out of the loop and put them in a position to oversee a lot of that, I think is a discredit to the people that put a lot of hours in and have a lot of knowledge to do the best job for Tipton. So just some of my thoughts.
Thank you.
All right. Our hands are kind of tied in that we have a city attorney who has advised us not to change this ordinance. So who do we believe? You people or the attorney that we...
If there's a trust factor that concerns me, but why did the attorney say don't change that? I'd like to understand that logic.
Which part of it?
Which part? Well,
no, I mean, she advises not to change the part
not to change
of each entity confirms their own members.
Can you discuss with her a possibility of having the confirmation process, and then also ask her what she's recommending, what part of it is legal advice and which is policy advice? Because the policy advice lies in your hands.
It's not only the attorney, it's also the insurance company who insures us for our errors and omissions. I was an agent for Farm Bureau. I had to pay errors and omissions insurance in case I made a mistake on somebody's life insurance policy or auto policy or whatever policy it might have been. And it wasn't cheap. And it's not cheap for the city to pay for it. But we have to do that to protect ourselves.
Well, both TEDCO and Chamber carries insurance for that.
Huh?
Both TEDCO and Chamber carries insurance for that.
But so do we. And we have been advised by our insurance company not to change the ordinance as well.
You've been advised by your insurance company that we might not be covered if we're not appointed by the mayor, and that's something different.
They just can't say they don't know.
Right.
And when you ask who you should believe, the city attorney or us, who do you work for? You just
We
said
work
you were-
for the people, but
That's
we
right.
also are advised by the city attorney as how we handle things that come up with us, just like this.
I have to ask, I rode around to a few local towns, knowing, I rode to Wilton, Mount Vernon, and Clarence. Wilton was nationally recognized recently for their downtown. I wrote to Mount Vernon because they were recently recognized for having no open storefronts, and I wrote to Clarence because they're on the move like crazy. I would just like to say how Wilton's economic development board is made up of. They're made up of the chamber executive, the school superintendent, the city administrator, the city council or mayor, the city counter supervisor, and the Western King County supervisor. You can't tell me that every single one of those persons lives within their city limits, and yet they're covered. So there's got to be a way around it, is what I'm saying.
Can I, if I could ask a hypothetical? Let's say that the council has an ordinance where the member entities can put up a name, or two, or whatever. And then it's up to the council to confirm. Let's say you put up 9, and you're 9 for 9, but on the 10th one, the council doesn't agree, they don't confirm. Can they do that?
I don't think it's going to happen, is what I'm telling you.
It did happen.
I would take the risk, to be quite honest. I got voted into this position because I went on a ski trip to Colorado 2 years ago. That's why you don't miss a meeting. Taken it up, and I served my position. But I'm telling you,
But you guys didn't say yes or no, you said it'll never happen, or something like that.
I'm telling you, I don't.
Could they, if it was written that way, if they had the one time, once in a blue moon, where they had a nomination come in that they didn't agree with, would they have the ability to say, hey, choose somebody else?
Why not?
Imagine they might have the ability, but then the person that you say no to might have the rights to say, well, why are you discriminating? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing, you know, you might be looking at
That's
civil.
Discrimination?
It could be. The reason
We're
why
talking
would you
about
say no?
hypotheticals here, but I think what you're saying, it could be written to be that way, just as you say. What she's kind of saying, be the same thing you talked about, that person has to be black or whatever, there still could be problems that are denied, but you would have that right. That's why I recommend the whole group make that decision, not one person.
I think we would be open to that, creating language that would allow, if they didn't get confirmed, then we would have to nominate someone else.
Just one.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It might make them happy.
That's the case of anything. I mean, if you have to bring it to the board and we vote on it, you have.
I know, but what I'm asking, I guess what I was wondering was, is council confirmation just seen as a rubber stamp in order to satisfy the insurance problem? Or could the council have a situation where they might say, in this one case, the votes aren't there?
Yeah, and I think they would have to the taxpayers to answer why they didn't select that particular person.
And then another
Or
could
they
be
would support
nominated.
them. Yeah.
I guess the other thing that keeps weighing on my mind is we keep talking about volunteerism and getting on the board and getting back to cutting down the pool of potential volunteers. And it feels like having basically just 3 entities represented, it cuts down a lot on volunteers as well. And that's why I had said before and stated earlier about changing the membership quotas on the commission. Because if we're all worried about volunteers, then it should be opened up a lot, I would believe, to include all 3,200 people, if not more, that live outside of Tipton.
All those people are already open to help us and be on our board already.
And
they aren't.
But they possibly could be. I mean, and to discount somebody that just doesn't own a business, to me.
We aren't.
You
You
have
can be a friend of the chamber. You wouldn't even have to own a business. That's
You could
totally
serve on a
okay.
not-for-profit and serve on the chamber.
Yeah, we have 4 or 5 friends of the chamber. You don't have to own a business.
Just saying that the ones that maybe own a business that live out in the country could serve on boards.
What we're saying.
What if to cut down, the number of representatives was changed from 7 to 5? Or,
Yeah.
wait, I don't know.
We have
But what if there was one from TEDCO, one from the chamber, 2 at large, and one from council? And we'd all have our 1, and then 2 at large.
But I don't understand what problem you're fixing by doing that.
Open it up to more
Like you,
volunteers.
you know, in your way, like I said earlier, I easily feel like, and you say it probably won't happen, and it probably won't. I would like to believe it won't, but we would be turning over at that decision a 4-3 vote. So the money of the lost fund goes under the control of the TEDCO and chamber representatives.
I mean, the council would still have the last say, but then, as you said, how do we move forward and work together? And if the commission constantly wants something that the council's not willing to put the money towards. But Todd, I saw your hand.
I just wanted to give maybe a little bit of history. I was on the commission when we first formed. What originally brought this commission and the director as a need, or seen as a need, is we had especially TEDCO members that were trying to entertain businesses coming to town. They were able to see whoever was available as a business owner or businessman in town, they were able to see as they came in to view the business park or whatever, and they weren't always seeing the same person time after time after time. So we had a situation where the chamber members really didn't have time to do what needed to be done. TEDCO members didn't have time to do what they needed to be done during the week as far as our TEDCO and chamber responsibilities. So at that time, it was decided that we would hire the director, which these representatives oversee the director, and the director was the person that was there to get the knowledge, be able to entertain these businesses coming in from TEDCO, help the chamber, and then also be a representative for the city. So that's how the original balance came. That is why it was set up as it is. Just a little history.
Thanks.
Thanks, Craig.
Sabrina, Jim's research again on your website. It says the Economic Development Director is responsible for the promotion of Tipton as a great place to live, do business, and working towards a downtown revitalization and researching grants and other funding sources to aid in Tipton's community development efforts. If you don't have the downtown businesses and the big industrial park represented, and you have, that's what she's here for, a majority. Not just, I mean, you guys represented the residents, and we have the at-large. The people are represented. We need the businesses represented too. And now whether that is solely for town or not, we're here for you. It specifically says in here what she's supposed to do. You need to have us represented too. Not a majority of people. She's not solely here for the people. That's why I don't think you're heavy-handed at large, Maine, down south.
One of the things I'm hearing is that business viewpoint is obviously a little bit different than the taxpayer viewpoint. So by doing the 4 to 3 that we've been talking here, the business has the advantage. That's the problem we have because the budget is in our budget. That's part of the taxpayers that they've given the responsibility to us to oversee. And I think Pam alluded to that. How do we turn that over to someone else if we're the ones who like to take care of that? And we're the ones that approve it every year. And we're the ones that have to, figure out how to make it work every year. We want to work together to get this all resolved. But the other thing that I heard was we're allowed to say no. That's what started this whole thing. We said no. And look what's happened. We've had enough for it ever since. The meeting here tonight is so that we can work together. I'm hearing a lot of, I guess what I would call a little bit of badgering. And that puts us in a difficult position. And we have to utmost keep the city's budget and the taxpayers in mind. And again, that's a different viewpoint from what you have, and I understand that you don't like that we have that viewpoint. But that's our responsibility, and that's where we're coming from right now. It's not that we don't like what everybody's doing and don't want to move forward. We do. We just need to find a way to do it together, not have these sides. That's what we're looking for. How can we work together?
Can we have some more suggestions then from council members?
What do you mean? For what?
You said this is supposed to be a discussion and you feel like it's us talking to you and you guys seem to be giving the impression that you're saying, no, but I'm not getting a good feel for what your solutions might be. If we want to work together, what are your solutions? I mean, Brian's come up with some wonderful ones so far.
Which one?
The one in my shirt.
Both of you.
Oh, I thought you meant given my suggestion, but it hasn't taken root. And other than that, I think the council themselves have said that they don't see an issue with the ordinance the way it is written.
And I haven't heard any comments from any constituents in my ward that say we're wrong.
I don't know what ward I live in, but I'm a constituent, and I'm here telling you. Jim lives in town, he's a constituent, and he's telling you. Alicia lives in town, she's a constituent, she's telling you. Dr. Johnson lives in town. We are taxpayers, we're citizens, constituents, you're telling you too.
Did you vote for me? I'm in Ward 1.
I can't tell you which ward I'm in, I just moved.
In Ward 1, hey, talk to me. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to listen to the people, what they want. The people that I represent in Ward 1, the ones that elected me. Okay? And I can guarantee you, I ain't running again. It won't happen.
I'm around, oh, sorry, yes, Shirley.
I would just like to say something in response to Ross. I was a councilman in Ward 1 for 28 years, and I represented all of Tipton, not just my ward. Anybody could come and talk to me in the whole town.
These two do represent everybody.
That doesn't make any difference. When you're a councilman, it's for the good of the community. And you listen to everybody. You just don't say, if you didn't vote for me, it doesn't count what you're saying.
That isn't it at all. That isn't it at all, Shirley.
No, it's not just Ward 1, it's the town. And you said Ward 1.
And if anybody else from another, and they have, all right, I've had people come from Ward 3 to talk to me about it. And I tell them, you have 3 representatives. Go to them and tell them. You have 2 people at large and 1 that's your ward. And you talk to them. I'll pass it on to your ward representative. But you have 3 people. Each citizen in this town has 3 people that represent them on this board.
But yeah, I was just making the point that, you're just Ward 1 isn't the only people that they do need to listen to. Everybody sitting here tonight is here for a reason, because if you go up and down Main Street, you will find from Walmart to Roy Motors how many people have their business here, but they don't live here because they choose to be in rural Tipton, but they're still Tipton. You look at the newspaper and you see all the volunteers. He was talking about the Lions. There was a big article about Mr. Whitlash, Keith, all the service that he did for Tipton. He never lived in Tipton, but he served Tipton. And there isn't a person that doesn't need a ramp, that he comes to Tipton and volunteers. And all these business owners and everything that might not have a business in Tipton, but they have an employee that represents their business. I mean, you have just taken out everybody who volunteers with good intentions to come and want to serve on the board if you leave that sentence in. I'm just saying that for all the mayors before, all the council people before, the insurance agents before, nobody ever came to the council and that was the problem. Nor have we ever had a problem with TEDCO coming and asking the city, the chamber. Nobody's ever had a problem working with it, So I don't see, I guess I would like to know, what is your boundary for Tipton? Who do you consider a Tipton person that is not qualified?
By this ordinance, everybody lives inside the city
vote,
limits.
it would be the voting people of Tipton,
Yeah.
right?
So
Those
you're
voting.
just saying the people that vote are doesn't make any difference if you're in the school district or if you're rural route Tipton, a couple miles.
You can't have somebody out of town, out of the city limits,
Just
voting for the city election.
Just like Mike Herring came with you. He lives in McCampsville, but he's in the Tipton School District.
Because I'm dating a farmer, we're looking to move out of town because he has cows. That is his livelihood. He works on a farm. if that were to happen, I'm down. I can't do it just because I'm with somebody who farms and that's his livelihood. You're cutting me off from helping Tipton, the future stuff, because we have to move out of town for his livelihood.
Just like Mr. McNeil said, nobody said you can't volunteer, just because you move out of town.
I'm saying from the Development Commission.
Right, and I just want to say, Shirley, I believe in volunteers. What they do is awesome, and I pretty much say that I don't do anything for pay anymore, so I know about volunteering. But I think we've all gotten very focused on this one position, and now I find out from Ken that the city has 2 different committees that you cannot serve on unless you live in town. I think we're kind of getting a bad rap up here because we didn't write those.
No.
Whether it has to be something that we sit down and change both of them, but I think as a council, we can't pick and choose either. So it would be a revamping of all the ordinances.
So we're here tonight asking you, and I'm sorry if it seems like badgering. It's a plea. This is a plea from our group organization to make some changes, and that's what we're asking for. And Mr. Mayor, the reason why I feel like you got your proposal, why we're not real receptive to it, is because what you've offered is less than what we walked in here today with. And so if we're going to try to negotiate some of the terms, let's make it so it's a win-win. And I'd be interested in that. If you want to add more citizens, more at large, then I think that's something we can talk about. But don't give us less than what we have now.
You know, I've been sitting here listening to you guys, and I think you guys have a legitimate plea here. And I think something can be worked out here. I know how hard it is to find volunteers. I've been in another service organization, and it's difficult. And what would this town have been had Dave Stevens, who lived out of town? He started a business park outside of town. Without him, we would be a long ways back. And I hear you, and I think we should be able to work something out. That's my opinion.
My opinion is that our city attorney needs to look at it and figure out a way that it will benefit everybody in the community, and then present that to us so we can have that as a process. Not anybody else. Our city attorney, they're the ones that we have to pay to advise us, so they're the ones that we have to throw this back in their lap and say, figure out a way to make it right for everybody.
What the city attorney will be missing is all these policy things that we've both been talking about tonight.
The attorney will need some parameters on what we basically want.
Yeah, so I want to talk about
We'll all be on the internet.
What?
We'll all be on the internet, so you can watch it.
Well, because if you want it and we want it, the city attorney will figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
As long as it's not illegal.
Years ago, I worked for a man that had, he was Achievement Awards winner. He was a keynote speaker for it. And he had a saying that there is no problem that cannot be solved if everyone involved in that problem really wants to solve it. That's what we need to do.
I feel like we do.
The man was
We're just
very
tugging in
smart,
the same
and
direction.
I don't think
We're
there's
not
anybody
together.
up here that's saying, no, we can't have it your way, we can't have it if we can't have it our way. We need a solution, and we need our city attorney to bring forth that solution for us, and it'll be acceptable to you and to the constituents in the city. Everybody
So it'd be
involved.
helpful to add, since there's 2 from Chamber, 2 from TEDCO, we have an at-large already, 2 from City Council. If we added another at-large to be appointed by the mayor to create more balance, do you think that would satisfy some of your concerns?
I don't want to commit to anything right this second, but I think it goes a long way.
Possible.
Sorry. I want to tell you.
I think this ordinance was written years ago when we had our storefronts all
home-owned, every storefront had a local businessman owned. That was before people started building out of town. So I think this ordinance is obsolete. It really needs to be changed. .com, Cherry Aurora, Family Foods, let's just name a few, have been the backbone of the community. They donate, which we don't even know what all they do. And if we're going to eliminate them as people, they're the ones that have the background and the experiences of businesses coming in, business people coming in. And I think it'd be a shame to eliminate them because they have the knowledge and we need to utilize that knowledge. So I think the ordinance needs to be changed. And as far as that business or the attorney from out of town, if they're from Cedar Rapids, do they know small town Tipton? We're getting more into storefronts all the time. And something needs to be done. That Cedar Rapids attorney understands what we're working with here.
Well, their husband's from Tipton, so.
So I think we,
Yeah.
May I add on to that? What of our ordinances are still their original ordinance? They are made to be changed, they are capable of being changed, and it takes one instance to make a change. I mean, that happens in lawsuits and courts all the time. It'll take one thing to make a change. How many of them are still the original? Because they can't stay original. They have to change over time.
All right.
My proposal to you, Mr. Mayor, is to talk with the city attorney and let them know that what we're needing done here. And it will be, when it's done, it'll be beneficial for everybody. That's just the way it needs to be. Somebody's not gonna be happy with it, but you'll let them go out in the corner, okay? But everybody, for the majority of the people, they're the ones that need to be satisfied, along with the council. So it's up to our city attorney.
Well, I don't know that, I don't agree with that. I think it has to be worked out amongst ourselves. And then we present it to her.
The city attorney is the one that needs to work it out for everybody involved. Us as a council.
That's not
and
legal
as a
advice.
council.
What you're talking about is policy decision, and that's for the council to decide, and then for the attorney to decide if there's any legal issues with what that proposed policy would
That's
be.
what we're paying her for. Find out what the deal is here. Let's get it settled.
But I don't want an attorney from Cedar Rapids choosing what our future is. I'd rather have you guys doing it because it comes from the people that are elected. That city attorney wasn't.
And I agree with you, Tamara, and it should be amongst
I don't want you to
ourselves.
give up your power to that city attorney.
We don't. We want her to advise us. And that'll be beneficial for the citizens as well as the council.
But do we have to come at her with a proposal that we have agreed on, and then she can confirm from there that it's legal? That's what I think we're trying to say.
Whatever it takes. Like I said, there is no problem. It cannot be solved if everybody involved wants to solve it.
The ordinance is your ordinance.
We can draft.
So it's up to you.
Sure.
Right.
Make one change.
Right.
One make and then have your city attorney take a look at those.
Right.
Right.
So it's really up to you.
We can draft it locally and just have her review it.
Yeah.
Right. It's up to them now.
Yeah.
And to wrap things up, is there anything else from anybody else? Yes.
Just one thing, I think it is absolutely vital for the chamber office to have a business front on Main Street or in the downtown. Absolutely vital. I don't think they should be tucked away in City Hall or any place else where we can't see it. My opinion.
What do you call downtown?
Hear that.
What?
What do you call downtown?
Our Main Street.
Okay, totally on the main street or not on Fifth off of the,
No, I think you would say like your old shop would be part of the downtown. Everything in that district, there's a downtown
right.
district.
But the city hall is that distance from Main Street.
When I worked at City Hall, I can't tell you how many new residents came and they're like, we had no idea where you were.
Right, and we need signs to
We
for
do.
that and
But
for the
that's-
police station.
I think that's one of the concerns is they
Right.
wouldn't be able to find her.
Right.
And that was, I think, one of our big concerns with putting her in the Legion building was she wouldn't be able to be found. I think it's the concern with City Hall.
You also want to think about, I would like to not have her be upstairs or be in a place, just when you're considering it, not to be handicapped accessible or be behind locked doors. You want her to be accessible to the public. She needs to be closer to the people and not necessarily closer to the mayor and Brian. No offense or anything, but I wonder where we can get to her.
But we also want her safe.
That's the main
Yeah, but
concern.
safe would get safe in a lot of places.
That's the main
Yeah, we can't
concern.
But also my one thing is, we're probably never going to be able to afford an assistant for you. I didn't want to break it to you. You know, the thing at City Hall is there's someone visible there all hours to take messages.
And besides
Drop-ins.
that, there's a spot for her to be and very accessible. And she wouldn't have to worry about being safe. For crying out loud, there's a door that has to be opened to let her in, and then there's behind her where she would be is the police department.
Just
How
to put a
safe
pause,
can you get?
pause
Yeah.
on your thought for a second. I just wanted to thank you guys. I think we're all trying to move in the same direction. We're just like tugging at those different times on the rope. Because first of all, to have all you guys here, it shows how committed you are to Tipton, and I appreciate that.
You bet.
And the ideas that you gave us will give us something to digest and think upon. So, thank you for that. And I guess we'll go on to the location of the Economic Development Director. We know we kind of started there, and I backtracked. Well, they're just split up into subheadings. So, Pam, you had some thoughts on?
I
Or did
just
you-
said that, you know, the City Hall, I mean, location-wise, if you're saying down to your store, then City Hall isn't that much farther off of Main Street. It is a free rent.
Or you can put up a big sign there that says.
Yeah, well, I would propose
Keep
that.
it in the front so people can see it when they go through.
I would propose that we need, no matter where she moves, we need signs saying where the City Hall is and where
A
the police
marquee.
department is.
A marquee would be good. City Hall.
No, just my experience this past week, went on vacation to a small town in Minnesota, and their economic development person in this town is vibrant. He said they have like $3 million out in redevelopment loans to the downtown right now. He is located on the back side of a building, and City Hall is designated with a small green street sign on the side of the building. On the front of the building, though, is the chamber office. So the front of the building says Chamber of Commerce, but then you have to actually go walk around the outside of the building and enter it from the back to get to both City Hall and the economic development person. Now, that's just one experience, but that's where I saw that with my own eyes.
We
So-
went to Pella on one of our trips, and we always make a point to go to these offices. And we actually thought it was in one of the windmills in Pella. So we went in there and we asked them, we're like, this clearly isn't it. It was like a historic thing, museum. And we asked the people working in there, so from the Pella area, we're like, where's your office? They didn't know. They were from there. And it's because it was about, what, a block off probably, and then kind of tucked around. It was a beautiful building, don't get me wrong. But there was no walking traffic that way. And so the people who live and work in that town didn't even know where it was.
Yes.
Have they ever thought about, does the city own that little strip of land where bicyclists?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have they ever thought about putting up a sign like West Branch has got? I believe West Branch still has it, where there's a little map and then it lists some of
Sure.
the important places to see, the address and so forth.
That
Something like
proposal
would that
has
help
been
solve
made.
it? I
Yeah.
know we look at those when we go.
And it's
out of
being
town.
seriously considered.
Yeah, the proposal has been
A
made.
marquee or
Yeah.
some type.
You could have a pretty big one, you know,
have one,
beyond
yes.
the bicycle that
Mhm.
says directory or something, and have a little city map that could point to all the things, the historical library, the library, and maybe a little bit on one side, a little bit of history, like all of the paintings that are in the library and all that kind of stuff. people out of town, if they see something, at least I do, if I'm visiting a town and I see that something that's a directory, I'll go look to see where it is rather than bumble around and try to figure it out myself.
Yeah, that's a very good suggestion, and it's been made before, and I think it's in the plans to do. And that visibility is important there. And I believe personally that the economic director must be visible. I have personally been there when people have been looking for the economic director, just people, tourists in town, wanting to know more information. And if they're tucked away in another corner, they're not going to be found.
And that bicycle draws people's attention there, so they would see the directory, I think. I've seen a lot of people drive by and go around the block car to look at it, so.
It's fun to watch little kids. Because I was painting on the other day, and this little boy came up and I said, "You think you could ride that?" He said, "Huh." Didn't think so.
It's taller than you think.
Yeah, it's pretty tall.
14 feet.
Any more discussion on this?
I think that we made our proposal to you. You didn't like it. Well, first you took it under advisement and then looked into another option. And then we came back and you didn't like our proposal. What I would like to see maybe is for the city council to make a decision to recommend to us, because I don't want to keep doing the guess and test thing, because it's really not working out, and I think it's creating more hostilities between the groups than needs to be there. And so maybe that's what I asked for you to do instead of making a decision on this, maybe even tonight, is work on a proposal of your own so we can consider it also. I just don't want to keep going like this.
This might be a good work for a work session with the council.
I personally like the Myers building.
I'd love it, it'd be right next door.
I think the chamber would like to see one less open storefront. The fuller it looks, the better it looks to visitors. Whether it is just Linda's office or a walk-in retailer, it looks better than an open storefront.
If you see, most of your traffic, I assume, is going down to the Main Street. So if you're coming through interested community, they're going to be looking. I would like to see it kept on Main Street. Doesn't look that, I understand that, but I think the more visible she is where the traffic is, the better off she's going to be.
I think what Tamara said is a good point. Negotiations, one side offers, the other counters, and come. So that might be the best approach.
All right. So with that, we'll wrap up this discussion item. Thank you, everyone, for being civil and coming forth. And now we'll move on to letter H, which is the ordinance approval and amendment.
Thank you.
They're ready. All right, so if you guys are ready to approve this second reading of the electric utility rates, you can, or Floyd is here to answer any and all questions that you might have.
What's that?
Brian is doing. But if you understand it enough, then if there's a motion to approve this second reading. Booth with the first and Leeper with the second.
Boots?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
All right, so the second reading has been approved, and the third reading will be on the 21st. Yeah. And now we'll move on to the second one, which is the ordinance amending the gas utility rates, which is also the second reading. Virgil's here for any and all questions, but if Lieber does not have any, so he has made the motion to approve this second reading.
Second.
And Anderson with the second.
Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots.
Yes.
All right, so that one, the third reading will also be on 8/21. Now, the resolution for approval, which the first one is calling a ballot question on November 2017 to reduce library board members from 9 to 7. Remember last time we had,
Jamie.
yes, Jamie Meyer here explaining that the library board would like to be reduced from 9 to 7. They need our resolution to put that on the ballot. Lieber with the first.
Second.
And McNeil with the second.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots.
Yes.
Spear.
All right, then moving on to the last one, which is Great Places designation.
This is an effort that is starting off countywide. It's part of a process that the state has toward a grant program. You have to have a Great Places designation in order to apply for a Great Places grant. In order to get a designation, you have to apply by first having a vision plan approved. And in this case, the University of Iowa has students that would help do that process at a total cost of $1,500. Starting off as a county application, we have a number of possible contributors. So if all of us stay intact, Tipton's share would be not to exceed $187.50. And in the end, if this plan is developed, if we gain that designation, and if we apply for this ordinance or for this grant, we would be eligible to apply for items that are named in the vision plan. And as I mentioned in the write-up, although we're starting off countywide, it is possible that there are entities in the county that may not see this as the right time, so they might drop out. It could be the case that it could be a few towns in the end, it could be 2 towns in the end, or in the end it could be just us. But it's one of those situations where I've heard different goals mentioned. We'd have to see how a vision process played out, but I've heard it mentioned for trail development. I've heard it mentioned toward, in part, helping with Hardacre. I've heard it mentioned for using it for murals. And there are probably ideas that I'm not even aware of. But in order to have this grant, which has a maximum award of $400,000, we have to start here.
What kind of a time frame are we looking at on preparing that vision plan?
I don't think we have that yet. I think the students are going to start, and they're going to have to fit it within the framework of either their term or their school year, though.
I think it's August through April that they do the vision plan.
I just want to make sure it wasn't some long drawn out thing that's going to happen.
No.
You know, the city's dropping off.
No. The cities will have to be in it. And Rob Ness is to get back to us. He said he would get back to me early this week to see if SEDCO would be willing to help those cities that are in the organization, but he hasn't got back. He didn't get back to me yet today.
So we'd be on the hook for $187 right now.
Under the current concept, yes.
And 1,800 at the most.
15.
15.
Oh, 15?
Guess where to get any grants, that's the first step.
I agree.
Put a motion forward to accept.
All right. Anderson with the first and McNeil with the second.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots. Yes. Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right, now down to the motions for approval. The first one, which is the claims list. Is there any claims that want to be pulled out and discussed? Seeing there is none, is there a motion to approve the claims list? McNeil with the first.
I'll second.
And Spear with the second.
McNeil. Boots. Yes. Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
All right, the next one is the consideration of the pay application to Triple B for $47,000, $271 for the football field and city park sidewalk project.
Just to clarify, in the cover letter that came from Garden and Associates, of that amount, the city portion is $27,018.95, and the school portion is $20,252.
All right. McNeil with the first,
I'll second.
and Boots with the second.
Boots. Yes. Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil.
All right, so that passes. That looks good too, by the way, if nobody's been
Yeah.
down there yet.
It
Looks
does.
really nice. Next one is consideration of resignation from the Tipton Cemetery Board of Steve Yerington. Is there a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Lieber with the first,
Second.
and Anderson with the second.
Spear.
Yes, with great reservations. He did a really good job on that committee.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots. Yes.
And number 4, which is the resignation of David Fry from the Tipton Cemetery Board. Motion to approve this. Lieber with the first, and McNeil with the second.
Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots. Yes.
All right, then the 5th one, which Linda, if you would mind making your way to the podium, which is the drip reimbursement for NBC properties at 513 Cedar Street.
Hello. This is the DRIP application that NBC Properties, they were approved by the Commission and City Council. They have done all the work that they said that they would be doing. They presented all the paid bills. Brian and myself went and inspected the building, and the Commission recommends that we pay them $7,471.02 because the project is complete.
All right, any questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So,
Spear with the first, and McNeil with the second.
Anderson.
Yes.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots. Yes. Spear.
yes.
All right, then the next one, which is the DRIP program reimbursement for the gathering.
Yes. The commission received the application from the gathering, 2 mirror buildings, so they are identical buildings. That's why it is identical with what I gave you with the application. And the commission approved, and we'll do 519 first because I did both of these separately. And the grant is exterior. It's going to be windows and doors, and I'm sure that you all have walked by these buildings, and I'm elated that we have business owners that are willing to get these buildings back up to par because they have been let go for too many years. So the commission recommended with the DRIP money that $4,972.10 be approved for building 519 Cedar Street.
McNeil with the first,
Second.
and Lieber with the second.
Leeper.
Yes.
McNeil. Boots. Yes. Spear.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
All right, and then the next one,
Thank you.
521 Cedar Street.
521 mirror, and again, made it easy. So to get the windows, doors, the front of that building updated, and actually Judy was very kind and allowed me to go inside those buildings, and the work has to be commended. They are doing a fabulous job inside those buildings. But this again is for the exterior. The amount that was approved by the commission that I'm bringing forth to you is $4,972.10.
Just one note too. These 3 DRIP applications are TIP eligible. So probably in November, we'll bring a resolution back that sets up a claim against the TIP district for reimbursement.
All right.
I'd make a motion to approve.
Boots with the first,
Second.
and Spear with the second.
McNeil? Boots? Yes. Spear?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, so now we're to number 8, which is the purchase of 2 IV pumps. Mr. Ratliff?
Oh, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
It's a happy day, isn't it? I bring to you this evening without any paperwork in front of me since I'm just getting back, the request for 2 IV pumps. The cost of the total expenditure is roughly, I think, $3,410. They're $1,710 a unit. That's $20. I think that these are going to be great units. We're seeing more acute patients out there requiring more exact medication doses. In order for the ambulance to take the next step, we really need to bring on equipment to monitor those medications to administer them correctly. The other nice thing about it is we received a grant for $2,000 to offset a significant portion of this project. Do you have any questions for me?
This one. So you're recommending that Master Medical Equipment?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we've worked with them as a vendor before, and they just treat us like gold. So I really like to work with them still. Their bid was, I think, $1,000 less than some of the other competitors.
So it's $3,500 and you possibly can get a $2,000 grant.
They're $1,750 per unit. I already received the $2,000 grant.
Oh, you've already received it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my goal was to get the project for free. It hasn't worked that well, but we sure offset it a little bit normally. I'm usually pretty good about keeping those numbers pretty low. So it's a good deal. They're relatively low maintenance pumps. My experience, we use them in the flight world. We use them on some of our critical care rigs. It's an aggressive step, and Tipton will be the only service in this county, hands down, and we'll be one of the few services in the region that'll have them on our rigs, which is a great help for all of us. We're just seeing too acute patients anymore, where they're more expensive to run, but our patients are, this is going to sound terrible. I like repeat patients when they die. It's not good for business. As terrible as it is to say that way, this really helps us stabilize those patients. The problem with Tipton is that we've got a 30-minute transport to any hospital. When I worked in a metro area, we had 6 minutes. You just shoot right over and you're done. Here, we're really having to work a lot harder, which I'm okay with, but I like to make sure our staff have the right tools to provide that next level of care to ensure that they're not only keeping the patients at their safest condition, but also keeping them as healthy and working towards the better long-term outcomes for our patients.
All right, is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Leeper with the first and Anderson with the second.
Boots?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Thanks, Brad.
All right, and now the consideration of backhoe bids. Bring on up here.
It's rude. Look at this.
Well, I assure you this is going to be very boring, but we had 3 bids, 3 competitors, all good machines. The low bid of $70,955 from Titan Machinery for a case unit is actually the one that everybody liked. So not only was the low bid machine everybody liked it, it will accomplish what we need.
All right, so that's your recommendation?
Yeah, our recommendation is
Did
the
you
low bid.
guys get to test all those?
Yep, we tested all 3 companies' machines, and they're all good machines. So
And this was one of the ones on your equipment list?
yes, it's one we budgeted for. It's time for this machine to go down the road.
That was a good answer.
All right, is there a motion to go with their lowest bid?
So moved.
Spear with the first and Leeper with the second.
Spear?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil? Boots? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Bye.
All right, so now we are to consideration of action related to the economic development. And everything we spoke about before, the Development Commission ordinance and location of the Development Director's office. After hearing Tamara's last remarks, and also with Leanne and Ross as well, I mean, I hate to suggest this again, but would the council move to table this, and so, or do you guys want to move ahead?
Well, I would just want to say that I think that the counter offers and the offering we need to put something together and present to them, and then we need to hash it out till we're all happy. So it'd be hard to do that tonight anymore for the ordinance. Any change in that I guess I would foresee.
Well, I think we can move ahead on the location.
Okay. So is there a motion to table this part with the Development Commission ordinance?
I would second that.
McNeil with the first and Spear with the second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil? Boots? Yes. Spear?
Yes.
All right, and then the second one, which is the location of the Economic Development Director's office. Comments?
I like the Myers building.
Questions? All right. McNeil and,
I'm for the Myers building too.
well, I'm not asking for, all right. Is there a convincing argument that you guys want to make? Or at
Well,
least
it's
an
highly
argument?
visible.
Okay.
And square footage is sufficient to serve our needs and have a separate room for boardroom. I just think it's a good substantial building that we've helped refurbish. And it's got historical significance upstairs in there. So,
Marcia,
Marcia Myers.
Myers, yeah, the one next to Me Tierra. That one.
Where it says barbershop on the front window.
4170.
Barbering.
Yeah, that's how she's gonna offset her salary is haircuts.
You'll be
And
first.
are we to assume that would be agreeable to the chamber and to TEDCO?
Yeah. We all looked at it.
Right. And that would be an acceptable location.
And if I recall, Brian, you kind of put a
Chose that.
Yeah, I thought
mark in that column.
Yeah, the ones that we looked at, I thought that had the best overall value.
So are we looking at this as one of our compromises? Because we're looking at no rent versus $600. If we're gonna go with the $600, isn't that a concession by us? A little bit?
I would say it's a concession, but I would, I guess I think the city hall would be a very acceptable location with no rent. I also think that at this point, we do need a concession, and that city hall will be available if we come to a year or two down the road and say, we're not gaining anything by paying that kind of rent.
Sounds fair.
That's the lowest rent that was available, so it's not just because of that,
And-
it's
okay.
a good location.
Yes, it is.
Then going forward, Brian, Linda had a spreadsheet with all the different rates for lease terms. Now, if we approve moving her office to that building, we're not approving a lease term right now. How does that process look?
I think we would, on behalf of the council, request a lease agreement to review under the terms that they presented in the spreadsheet.
So then like the next council meeting is one that the council then would approve or deny a
I
lease
think
agreement?
Marcia would approve of that. I think she would be.
It depends on how, maybe she has one ready. I guess it depends some on how soon she would present something.
Yeah.
And then we probably want to have the attorney review it.
So then, yeah, the council at a separate meeting then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah, your motion would be to proceed with setting up a lease agreement.
Okay.
And I'll make that motion.
All right, so Mr. Anderson has made the motion
I
to
just have
move.
one question.
Oh, sorry.
Is the budget able to absorb the increase? Are we okay there?
Because we go from 500 to 6.
But
Melissa, Ms. Armstrong?
Additional expenses with moving.
Right.
But then it would actually, since it's a third, it would only go up $40. All right, so Mr. Anderson has made the motion to move our economic development office to Marshall Myers' building, and Neil made the second.
Anderson?
Yes.
Leeper?
Yes.
McNeil?
Yes.
Fuchs?
Yes.
Spear?
Yes.
All right, so that has happened, and we'll get in contact with Ms. Myers, and now we're down to the reports.
Mr. Mayor,
Yo,
who
sorry.
do you want me to do that, or do you direct someone else?
I think it would be.
I think us together.
Okay.
All right, and well, I don't really have anything to report. Is there a council report? Committee reports? Manager reports. All right, department heads. We got Spangler, Mr. Spangler.
But I'll do it for you if you want. Well, I'll line it everything for you. Past, I think 5-6 years, I've come first meeting in August and talking about the pool, checking with staff, making sure when the last day we're going to open. First couple of years we were open. We tried during the week after school started, and then it was a disaster. And then tried a couple of years, we did weekends. It was very hard to get staff to do that. The past 3 years, we closed a Sunday. The last day was open on Sunday before school started. The reason why we suggested that, those 2 weekends we'd be open, we really did not have staff, maybe 3 or 4 people could work, and we needed to have at least 9 to 10 staff at all times, so you keep indoor and outdoor open, because all the kids are gone from college or in all fall sports. So we're not like Cedar Rapids or Iowa City that has, like Cedar Rapids, for example, have 5 aquatic centers, and they go down to like 2, and they have staff going down to 2, so they can hold kids and make it work. We don't have that luxury. If we do on the weekends too, another side note too, we have to keep all the pumps running as well as chemical running. So just for one pool, just the rec pool example, we spend $500-600 just that week and then we're swimming in it, and that's not including electrical bills and stuff like that. So my suggestion would be the last, would be the Sunday before, so right before school started would be the last day we open. So just to give you a heads up, so you let know, I have a spreadsheet saying who can work, who can't work, and we've asked every single lifeguard, and it just won't work. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you much.
Thanks.
Thanks, Adam.
Now we come to adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I got something for you, Brian.
Oh, yes.
You're not gonna get off. Okay, I think last council meeting I talked to you about the Cedar Poly transformer, maybe just a little bit. Did I?
I think so.
Okay. In May of this year, maybe it was June, the linemen were sent out there to do some maintenance work on it because they had complained about equipment burning up. Well, they went out, tightened all the connections, didn't find anything, but what they did find was that the transformer was leaking oil. That was a brand new transformer bought in July of 2014. It's still under warranty. They will fix it. But they do not supply us with the transformer we need to put in its place while the other one's being repaired. I've tried to rent one, and nobody seems real interested in renting this one. I checked with some of the other munis in the area. Nobody has a tub that big, our voltage. So it kind of brought me to I kind of wanted to get a consensus tonight because I just got the bid back today on the transformer. I would like to order this. It was something I did not budget for, but it's part of being an electric utility and part of doing the business is that the replacement transformer is going to be $18,000. Now they're going to fix the other one and they're going to send it back to us. So then we'll have it as a spare. But currently right now, if anything happened out at Cedar Poly,
which they're either number one or number two, it depends upon the year. They are our largest customer. So if anything did happen out there, we don't have any backup at all. So, I would kind of just like to get a consensus what the council thinks of me doing this.
What's the time frame on the repair?
2 to 3 weeks.
But how long till?
And this transformer will take 8 to 10 weeks to get here.
So the one that needs repaired can keep going and.
Yep, the one that needs to be repaired, we'll keep it in service until we can take it out of service. Then we will have a spare for them if anything would ever happen. I realize that's an awful lot of money to have sitting around for maybe.
But maybe it's happened, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, because I thought maybe somebody around here might have one that we could beg, borrow, rent, steal, and I just haven't come up with anything.
Sounds like a necessity.
Yeah, sounds like
You've got
something you have to.
You gotta have it.
It's a big employer. Nope, not that big, about 1,500. Because I checked with the REC, they have one, but they didn't seem real, how do I want to say this?
Enthused.
Yeah, that'd be the best way to put it.